Welcome back to CBS Mornings. All this week, we are checking in with people we've introduced you to over the past few years to ask one simple question. How are you now? Today, we're asking that question of this man, Alan Hawes. He was a critical care nurse on the front lines of the pandemic who gave himself and the world powerful perspective through pictures. Over time, that perspective has continued to widen. When Alan Hawes goes to work at the Medical University of South Carolina in Charleston, he brings with him a special ability. A talent, really, that he uses when he cares for the sickest of the sick COVID patients. He takes pictures of what you and I would usually never see. Because before he became a nurse 11 years ago, he spent 23 years as a newspaper photographer. And that gives him the ability to tell the stories of these patients.
This is a gentleman named Ryan Simpson. We had to send him emergently to our cardiac ICU.
And y'all believe COVID is what damaged the heart so severely?
Oh, yeah. His heart was beating so fast for many days that...
How fast?
135 to 165. And this is his wife, Sarah. So this is the first moment that she saw him that day and was, I think, kind of taken aback by all the people in the room as they were preparing to take him to the operating room.
You know, so many frontline workers have said to us, if only the public could see what we see. Well, Alan Hawes convinced one of the largest hospitals in South Carolina to allow him to give sight to what those caregivers routinely see.
This is a woman who was very sick. She was with us for a long, long time, and her family brought in this prayer cloth.
The family wasn't able to visit, but this prayer cloth
Yes.
was sort of their representative.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened to the lady?
She didn't make it.
His pictures document COVID's grip as it tightens.
And he was totally there. As you can see, he's texting people on his cell phone, telling them what's going on.
But why did you want to capture this?
I felt like I knew where he was going.
And what happened?
This is what happened.
Oh.
So 2 days later, I walked in and there he was.
Vaccinated?
He is unvaccinated.
So you're now at a place, if I'm hearing you right, where you're like, c'est la vie, it is what it is. Don't want to get vaccinated, wind up here.
I have quite a few times had a patient who's unvaccinated, and I'll think to myself, you did this to yourself. But that doesn't last long. It's part of being a good nurse is having empathy. Once you hear the stories of some of our patients from their family members, you can become a fan of that person, and you just know that they made a bad decision.
You humanize them.
Yeah.
You're mad at them when they come in the door, and then you start to find out who they are.
I've had some really hard times with that. I mean, nurses are broken right now, emotionally.
Are you?
I feel like I am, yes.
Every time he gets permission to photograph, either from the patients or their family members.
I think people have a message that they want to get out there.
The mother holding a picture of the newborn she can't touch. The girlfriend who keeps a bedside journal. This is Alan's colleague, a nurse. He's triple vaccinated, but a lifelong asthma patient.
With all due respect, this is one example where a picture doesn't actually do it justice.
No, it doesn't. This is a picture where I was like, man, I wish I had video.
Give me a second.
No, yeah, you slow down and...
Well, our producer was in the room with the video camera.
Breathe in. I don't need anything else exacerbated anymore.
I do wonder whether some people are going to be like, put that camera down and pay attention, just like full-time nurse.
Yeah, well, when I'm doing that, they're not my patients. I don't take pictures of my own patients.
Finally,
this is Mr. Croxton. He had the heartstrings of about every nurse in our unit, I think, when he was there.
Joel David Croxton was 72 years old when he died. This was the nurse who broke down after she called his wife to tell her it was time to come in and say goodbye. His wife Sandy holding his hand. A nurse holding an iPad while a chaplain prayed with him. This was the picture of Croxton that worried Alan Hawes. Would it be too painful for his wife to see? Then again, Hawes usually never sees the families again.
Someone would like to see you.
On this day, they did. Alan Hawes saw Sandy Croxton again.
How are you doing?
This time they just held each other. No pictures needed. Just thank you to each other. That was 7 months ago. Now,
Hey, David.
how are you?
I'm doing good. Busier in a different kind of way. Not the amount of patients that we had before, and they're not as, generally not as sick as they were before.
Right after our story about your work aired, what happened?
Oh my goodness. I mean, my life changed for sure.
How so?
I heard from people all across the country. I got handwritten notes sent to my house thanking me for everything that I do. I heard from healthcare workers across the country saying that they felt like I was speaking for them. It was just an outstanding experience.
So you've had an exhibit of your work at a public library in town since we saw you. How did that go?
That went well. It was at the Charleston County Public Library. They took just about all my pictures from my project and it toured around to the different branches.
A lot of your pictures showed people who were non-believers. They didn't believe COVID was that serious, or they didn't believe in the vaccine. Are you still experiencing that a lot?
I am, although I find myself not asking as much as I used to, because a lot of times I don't want to know the answer.
And he is still capturing powerful images inside the ICU. Tell me about this photo you took with the mom and daughter at the bedside of this man.
I was working in the medical ICU at the time, and one of my coworkers was telling me how sick this gentleman was and that they were planning on withdrawing care from him on that day.
These were taken back in March. His name is Victor Rodriguez.
I approached the family and asked them if I made some photos of you in the room with him during his last hours. And they agreed to allow that. It was gut-wrenching. There was a lot of love there. His wife climbed in the bed with him to be with him for the last time.
Where does that picture stand in terms of impact on you?
That was a really hard one to take. I didn't want to disturb anything. And when his wife, Diane, got in the bed with him, I just thought that that was one of the most beautiful things that you could do during the last minutes that you're going to have with your loved one.
Gut-wrenching.
You know, and he gets permission from all these families to take these photos.
Yeah. It's amazing the power of that original piece is still there, you know? You got the little tiny dynamite behind the eyes, you get the little watering. It's incredibly emotional, and the work continues.
I feel like it's so impactful for him, too, that he's had to overcome, I don't ask as much anymore if they're vaccinated, and he can't put himself there anymore.
I got the sense sitting across from him, Jamie and Tony, that he doesn't operate with a sense of judgment. He's just there to treat, and he just wants to document and let it speak for itself.
Yeah.